on the beat.
Welcome to the Supercoach Take podcast. It is the end of round 7 and we have so much to discuss. And we also have a very special guest today. You might know Jackson Davey from YouTube, been killing it at the moment, so we'll throw to him shortly. But next we have the regular, Enno. How you going, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
Good. And JD, how are you?
Oh, good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So we'll go over how we went. So I'm into rank 35, so highest I'll ever be, and hopefully I can maintain this. Scored 2,162. So happy with that. Got the Grundy captain right, unlike someone else on this pod, unfortunately. But Enno, what happened?
Yeah, just slept in too long, mate. I know it's 110, but that was have to be too long for me. So accidentally left the just the VC on Grundy and the C on Gordon. Didn't get a swap combo on for Zeeble, which was what I was meant to do. I just big Saturday night. So 1981 is what I scored. So lost about 80 points or whatever it was. Would have been somewhat respectable, but sitting about 3K. So I think I've lost ground for about 5 weeks in a row. So after a decent start, it's gone backwards, but always time to make it up. So how'd you go, JD?
I put in an average 2042, which takes me to just outside the top 500. Started off the season pretty strong, kind of sitting around 100, and have been fading a bit like yourself, Enno, over the last few weeks. The on-field rookies have been absolutely killing me. I can't wait to get rid of the rest of them.
Awesome. So yeah, JD, thanks for joining us. You're welcome every week if you want. I know you got kids and a new house and stuff like that, so won't always be available, but welcome to join us every week. And yeah, excited. So how are you finding doing YouTube weekly videos this year?
Yeah, it's been all right. I think like for those that are looking to get into it, the hardest thing is just getting the consistency. And for me, like I just don't have that much time, so just trying to go from like recording to uploading as quickly as possible is the only way to get it consistent. So yeah, I think like that's been the biggest thing this year that's kind of helped me do the weekly videos. But the best part is by far like engaging with the community, being part of your Discord, Jords, and being able to just chat to those that are commenting and giving them advice. That's the best part for sure.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, so our first topic. Well, we'll go over the agenda first. So first we'll discuss, are we looking at value picks this year or expensive picks? We'll have to go over Stephen May this week because he's a big one. Any concerns with Ridley? Had a few less rebounds, so we'll speak about that. Are we looking at Lockie Whitfield as an option? And then the midfield, we'll go over a few midfield options like Josh Kelly. JD can't wait to speak about Josh. And the forward line, there's, a lot of us are considering, sub 400 picks. Aaron Hall's name's been thrown around. We'll speak about him. We'll also go over Shea Bolton. Is he the real deal? And a few others. But the first topic is, are we looking in the short term right now or in the long term, value picks or expensive picks? For me personally, I think I have to be careful because I already have a few value picks. But I don't see myself having like the perfect team. I don't think I have the trades to do it. And I don't know where the cash gen is coming from, especially as someone who's traded James Jordan and Kazitsky far too early. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I'm looking at value picks right now. Stephen May this week. Dusty's coming down in a few weeks. And then it's like in the midfield, do I want to go for like a Tom Mitchell or do I want to pay up for, Bontempelli or a Lyons or even Guthrie? It's another story, but yeah, I'm still not sure. I think I might get 600k mid in, but for me, I'm looking to save money where I can, especially leading up to the buys. So, Enno, what is your thinking? Are you looking at saving for expensive players or looking for the cheap guys coming up?
I think what most of you said is right. We will have to get some value across the field somewhere. It's just where do we do it? So obviously May's a good pick this week. Most of them are obviously in the forward line. There's you're not going to be 100 plus average player in the forward line unless your name's Jack Zeeble or not even Dusty Martin at this rate. Looks like he could average 100. I mean, he can have a big back end, but they're all the 90, 85, 90 average players. So in defence, we still have a lot averaging over 100, and obviously midfield, we always do. So I wouldn't go for too many value picks in those lines, but in the forward line, I think that's where we're going to be saving our money and targeting the right guys, because they're the ones that tend to have bad games as well. So, Dusty's dropped a bad one. I know it was an injury, but you can get those guys for cheap and still be confident that they'll be primos, whereas, it's harder for a gun mid to drop a bad score to get him at a right price. So you want to be careful. It's case by case on the player, but I think the forward line is where we'll be getting most of our value picks this year. What's your thoughts, JD?
Well, George, I think you nailed this really early on in the season, actually, and probably helps explain why you're sitting at 35. You were all over the fact that rookies probably weren't going to make enough money, and we're going to need to aggressively find these cheaper options if we were going to do well overall, and that's definitely paid off for you so far. You found a bunch of really good options, and for me, like, having gone a little bit slower on this, it's really hurting now. I think that's why I've struggled to kind of keep that top 100 place over the last few weeks. It's because I'm fielding a McRae, a Chapman, a Berry, a Rowe, and I'm copying these 30s and 40s. So for me, I desperately just want to get them off the field, and that means, if you're going to keep one up, one down with rookies that aren't, getting to 350k, you've got to find value options. So at least I think for the next 2 or 3 upgrades, I've got to find value, and then maybe once like Powell and Warner and those types, your last rookies, you can maybe slow up and find the more expensive premiums. But for now, it's all about value, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking, I didn't realize cash gen would be this much of an issue, and for some people it's not. But I have Waterman's dead and Highmore. We're just praying every week. Finn McRae's a big problem now, so like the bench is kind of bare, and a lot of these rookies are only making 100k. My thinking was there's no there's no Matthew Rao or Sam Walsh rookie this year, so that were like a gift of free 300k. I'm not sure. Look, Powell probably won't get to 500, but he's the closest we got.
I mean, Powell's not far off, right? 360k, and he's just dropped another 97, so he could have 400 written all over him.
Yeah, I think so. He's gone probably rising star this year. We'll see how he goes. But yeah, it's just it's a hard one because it's like we've been gifted Zeeble and Impey. So while that's good, all of a sudden, like all these rookies are just quite dodgy. And Guns and Rookies was probably the first year where it's been a complete, close to a failure if you didn't start a few mid prices. So interesting strategy for this year, but we'll see how it goes next year. But for now, I need value ASAP. And speaking of value, there's 2 defenders right now. We'll throw in a third one that we need to speak about. I think the main one is Stephen May. We'll also speak about Daniel and touch on Houston. But I think it's more Stephen May, Caleb Daniel, or neither. So I think I need to bring in May. It's a hard one because he is that key defender, but he also has multiple scoring avenues. So he intercept marks, he spoils. The big one is he takes kickouts, but he also rebounds. So it's easy to get caught into the thinking, I believe, that he's a key defender, not going to score well, and he won't at times. But they do use him as an outlet, and he's 400k, which is just unbelievably cheap. And I think including his Amy series game and taking out the game where he got elbowed in the face, he's actually averaging 109, which is kind of interesting. But there's a few complications around May with Tomlinson's out now. So he's one that I'll still bring in. And is he a guy you're looking to bring in this week?
I think he'd be the number one target. I haven't looked at the stats, but I'd imagine he's up there with the most traded in. Look, I'll put a scenario on the table there with my team. So with Chapman and Rowe out, and I do already have, I think, 170 in the bank, I can get Freddie, and then I have 530 to spend on either a mid or a defender. Anywhere really, but probably those areas. The forwards, I'm just not as confident yet, really. I can get like a Mills. I can get, who else don't I have? Thing is, it's not really Houston, I guess, was the other one we're mentioning. Do I get May and keep that 100 and what would that be, like 30, 40 in the bank for another upgrade, or do I get a proven primo? This goes back to our first topic. The value versus expensive. What would you recommend?
Honestly, the extra 100k you save is like what a downgrade from a rookie is. It's almost like an extra trade. I would get May. What do you think, JD?
Yeah, so I think of the options this week, I still like May the most. I guess the only concerning thing with May is that outside of his 145 against North this week, his only other ton was in round one, and then it's just been 80s, 90s, and the concussion, subbed off 7. So I guess that's a little bit of the concern with May. The other big thing is kind of like his injury history. I know we've pretty heavily targeted durable players, and I'm happy to take some injury risks, but generally it's more towards like a completed team. So that's something to weigh up. And then also, the last buy of the round, which is one that a lot of teams can struggle with dealing with. So bringing in May also hurts that buy. I mean, those are, I guess, a few issues. Have you guys got any thoughts on how those play into your decision making on whether to get May over like Daniel?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because we can go through the issues one by one. Okay, we'll touch on durability. His durability has been pretty atrocious. Plays like 16, 17 games every year. However, from my understanding is he really changed his program and was far more disciplined, became more of a leader, even though he was a captain at Gold Coast. Didn't show a whole lot of leadership when he came to Melbourne when he was unfit. He said he was unfit. He looked unfit. Had some sort of knee surgery early 2020. Started a bit slow, but hasn't missed a game. Okay, we're not going to count the KO game. That was complete bad luck. So he's pretty much played like 22, 23 games in a row. So since he's like been more disciplined with his preparation, he hasn't missed a game. So that's a plus. His buy is an issue, especially for me. He'll be my 8th player with that last buy round. I might just cop it in round 14 if I have to. I just think at 400k, it just enables me to make more upgrades in the next few weeks. So I'll get those points back in the next few weeks if something goes wrong in the last buy round. So something I'm definitely conscious of. So I'm not too worried about the buy, and yes, I'm slightly worried about his durability, but I think it's been good for the past year and a half.
Yeah.
Also,
With the buy, you can sideways around the buy is what I was going to say as well. Like I said to you guys, so that's if you're desperate need, but you can do that being the last buy, so you get these 2 scores during the first two buys.
I'm a big believer in that because being at his price, like 4 or 8k, then coming off for 145, he actually should make 500k pretty easily before his buy. So hopefully get some good scoring over the next 5 rounds, and if you need to, you can kind of sideways him out, or maybe another one of your round 14 rookies to someone like a Whitfield, because for a lot of people, May's going to be like your 6th defender, and you probably want a Whitfield type. So I don't mind that at all.
I'm not sure I have that luxury.
Yeah,
it will depend
where the trades are at.
I think it's like I've worked out I can be on 12 trades and 3 upgrades to go while holding Power, Warner, and Dev. But then it's like that's not including fixing Finn McRae, fixing Waterman, injuries.
Yep.
And it's highly dependent on I need Frederick to make money, I need Highmore to make lots of money, RCD if I bring him in, I need these guys to make a lot of money. So it's like it's quite difficult to figure out what to do.
So the last thing I had as an issue for me is also an issue for Daniel, by the way, which is that outside of his ton last round, so for Daniel that was a 117 against Richmond, and for May a 145 against North. Their only other tons for the year came in round 1. Every other game has kind of been like a pretty sub score. I mean, Daniel had a 66 and a 78, as well as a 99, and then the injury game. And May's scores were like a 82, 78, and 94, and then the 7. So, I guess we haven't seen great form out of either of them for this year in terms of Supercoach scoring outside of round 1 and the most recent round. So, does that kind of scare you at all with these picks?
No,
I think I trust May more. I think I trust May more than Daniel as far as maybe like a floor goes. Like obviously we know Daniel has the high possessions and maybe May did show his ceiling last week, obviously, but you know May's role. You know what he does. He takes kickouts, he intercepts, he plays that position. Whereas Daniel has been thrown around a bit and has had poorer form to start the year. So trusting one, I would say I'd trust May more. But they're 400k for a reason. The risk comes into it, but
Well, May's 400k because he got knocked out. He shouldn't be
Correct.
400.
No, you're right. Maybe I think what did he start at? Start of the year
500.
500. So he's about that 500 player.
So with May, I guess if you look at it from scoring, yes, he's only tonned twice, including he had a 94 as well. He's gone 20 to 25 disposals, including the Amy game, 6 out of 6 times. And I did like him in the preseason. So look, I think he can go between 95 and 110. I think 110 is a stretch. However, it's not beyond him. I'd actually be happy with 95 from him for his price.
Yeah.
And I think maybe others are different, but just quickly, the last thing I'll touch on May. So the injury to Tomlinson meant that it sounds like one of two things is going to happen. Tom McDonald is going to go back, who scored okay previously in previous years in defense, or they bring in Petty to play that role. I'm not. It certainly didn't affect May during the game when they moved what's his name, Tom McDonald back. Do you guys think that could be a potential issue with the restructure there, or what are you guys thinking there?
I think it's a small issue, but I don't think the risk is too big. Like the way that May and Lever are working at the moment, I don't think Melbourne's going to want to mess with that too much, and so they're going to try and bring in someone to make sure that structure remains the same. Would be my best guess. And like it's less of a concern for me than someone like Caleb Daniel, who's gone from being the only good kick in the team to now dealing with Bailey Dale and Bailey Williams as like other good kicks out of defence. So there's risk that he isn't relied on as that main distributor anymore.
Yep, I think that's fair. And yeah, with Daniel, I don't know. I think what I will say on Daniel is early days. His first few rounds, he looks different the past 2 rounds than he did early in the season. It's kind of reverted back to how he was last year, so playing a bit better. However, Bailey Williams is currently out. So is that a reason as to why they're using him a lot at the moment? I'm not fully confident in Daniel. I can still see him going like maybe 90, but I'm just not convinced with now Dale and Williams back there when they're all playing together. I'm not sure. I don't fully trust him. Are you guys thinking similar, or would you guys be happy to bring in Daniel?
No, it's May for me.
Yeah, at this point in time, it's May. Like body of work, I'd probably trust Daniel more, but obviously that's been tarnished from the start of this year. So yeah, I'd say I'd trust May more.
And just Bailey Williams is 1 to 2 weeks away with that collarbone, I believe. So
Yeah.
it's not far until he comes back.
Yep.
Any interest in Dan Houston? For me, my only issue with Houston, well, my main one is they keep flipping in between midfield and defense. I think he's more midfield at the moment, so it's kind of confused me a little bit, and I wonder if that affects him. And last year, certainly, he seemed to score poorly in a few losses, and that's what happened. But I fully expect him to bounce back against the Crows this week. Any interest in Houston?
I wish I saw the game because it's strange to me. They just have so many defenders. Like with Bergman and Freddie coming in now, how is he still playing defence?
Burton got subbed off, right?
Yeah, but
Yep.
I guess did Houston start in defence anyway at the start of the games? I don't know.
No.
I did miss the game, so
Yeah, I think like
anyway.
the reason I passed on Houston early on in the year was this exact reason, that he seems to be a bit of a Mr. Fix-It for him. So if they need someone in the midfield, he can go there. If they need someone in defence, he can go there. And it like kind of concerns me because I think, his better scoring was going to be, being able to take some of those kick-outs and roll back through defence. So he did show some great scoring in the midfield, but I just don't like the inconsistency in role. But I will say that if you don't go May or Daniel this week, then Houston is someone that you can look at. He's 460, I think, and has just dropped another poor score. So he's someone that could end up around that 400k mark in a week or two if you are looking for a defender. And obviously he has the best buy of the three of them, which makes him an interesting option.
I think his break-even's 100 or so. Let me have a quick look. I don't think break-even's like 114, so he might not get to 400.
Didn't he just drop like a 50 or something?
It'll be high.
Yes, 45 or something like that.
What
I don't think he's going to get much.
the he can score well in both roles. It's just the flipping between the two. I don't think it actually would have mattered too much which one he played in. It's just when one week it's one and the next it's the other. It's you just don't get that consistency. And then Mills is the other one that it's happened to as well. So
Mills has been okay though.
He has a lot of body of work playing defense. So
they even played Mills key defense in the first quarter.
And I think they get Rampy back in 1 or 2. So
okay,
yeah.
So the next player we'll touch on just quickly is Jordan Ridley. So I'm looking at the rebound 50 numbers, and his average was like 10 or 11 in the first 4 rounds. This round, it was only 3. So they're using Heppel a bit more. I saw Redmond take a kick out. JD, you're a Bowman supporter. So you said you weren't worried in your video about this.
Yeah.
I think this does hurt his ceiling a bit.
Yes.
Any concerns with Jordan Ridley?
Yeah, I think I don't think my views changed too much. It's a wait and see, right? Like you've got a few things going on here. So you've got just coming back from concussion, you do see some players kind of return a little bit slower, and he did drop his lowest like total disposal numbers for the year, like 18. I think he'd been doing like 30s in the 3 games before his injury. But I think his ceiling is going to be capped a little bit. Like obviously, we're happy to use Heppel as that outlet kick, so it's not just Ridley anymore. The same reason why we're concerned about someone like a Daniel, because they've got other options. It seems like Essendon might have found that other option, kind of actually through necessity over Ridley being gone the last couple of weeks. So I do think his ceiling is going to be hurt, but I still think he's going to be a top 6 defender. And I think for those that don't have him, such as yourself, George, you're going to get a real bargain at whatever he jumps to around 500k or even less whenever that happens. But I guess you're also pretty fortunate you can wait and see a week or 2 to see how that kind of plays out. But yeah, I can't imagine that he's going to average less than like a 105 from here on out. But we'll see what happens.
Don't you dare tell me you're not going to get him still, George.
No, I think the good point from JD was he's coming back from concussion. We often see that they come back a bit slow. My only thing was I just look at the numbers, and they didn't use him to rebound as much. So that was my only minor issue. Still scored like an 85 or something like that. So look, I'm planning for him next week. Put it that way, or either next week or the week after. Most likely next week. But
I'm not wrong in saying, JD, there's been like changes in the defense too every week. I feel like 2 or 3, 1 or 2 at least.
Yeah, so this week James Stewart debuted. So he looked like he was going to be part of the back 6, and once again another like Essendon forward converted to defender. But he had a hamstring, like a big hamstring, a 6-weeker. So he's just came back for his first game. So figuring out how he fits in, is probably part of the problem as well. And yeah, there's been changes with like BZT coming in and out and that type of thing.
Like
so
every week.
It'll be interesting to see, hopefully there isn't a change this week because there wasn't an injury or anything like that. And we get to see them settle for a week and we can go from there.
Finally is Lockie Whitfield. So he's come back. I thought he was a little rusty with his disposal, but was playing against traffic cones against the Crows. I don't see how I get Whitfield in at any point, unless I get an injury. I just don't have the room because I've opted for the May option, which is part of the issue with May. It means I'm missing out on Whitfield. And I already don't have Stewart, so that's another story. Are you guys planning to get in Lockie Whitfield at some point, Eno?
Yeah. I think I can. It depends if I go May this week like you. And also lead can be thrown in the mids. I still want to see more. Actually, didn't realise he still got to an 80 in the weekend, so he did obviously have a lot of the pill, but he just didn't use it as well.
Yeah, he had
was 110.
He had 30
so
touches,
that's good.
but I think he started the game by butchering it a fair bit when they were still getting some points, and that kind of hurt scaling for the rest of the game. So
this gets you the early clangers.
yeah, the early clang is just absolute killer. So I think he was all right from then on. He had something like 700 meters gained still. First game back, was running like a beast, and he's calling for the ball and they give it to him like no worry. So I think we're pretty optimistic that these new rules would help him, and I think we saw a little bit of that. And once he kind of gets a bit of game time, he's going to shine. So I'm planning to get him because I can't get May this week. So he's someone that I'm going to hopefully target after his bye.
He'll be a huge pod. I don't know if he'll be a pod, but he'll be one where a lot of people won't be able to get him. and people
Yeah.
that do might have a bit of a leg up. Yeah, I'm kind of worried not having him, but I just don't see how I get the money to get him, given I want to pay up in the midfield. So those are the defenders. So anything else to add?
I just want to say it's kind of pivotal what he scores this like with the 80 now. His break even's 150. So this is as long as he doesn't go bang and skyrocket too early to where we can't reach him, maybe we can get him at a reasonable time.
I was just thinking, I could possibly go Whitfield over an M8 and throw Laird at M8. Is that something you guys would do if to get Whitfield? Throw Laird at M8?
I'll be doing that anyway with Laird at some point. I think to get May this week, I'll be doing it. Obviously, it doesn't mean he'll be there the rest of the year.
There permanently.
For you, it does. Oh, you also got to trust in Whitfield's durability is still always a question.
Yeah,
too.
that's true.
So, man, with the new rules, it just looks like he's going to be in a scoring machine. So,
I think it's one of those decisions, George, where you have to wait and see. I don't think you can plan for that now. Because like Whitfield may not pan out. You may get an injury, you have to side swap anyway. I'm not a huge fan of like M8, because I think like we've just started to see with the Crows fading, his scoring drop off a little bit, and maybe Sloan coming back this week helps, but I am worried that he only averages like 95 to 100 from here on out, and that's probably not acceptable for M8. You'd rather have like picked up Titch cheap, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to the midfield, and good segue, Tom Mitchell. This one is a bit torn on this one because 500k for Tom Mitchell. Any other year, that's a must-have. This year, he's not scoring as well. Again, 38 touches for 105. Felt he was a little bit underscored this week, but a lot of backwards handballs and stuff like that. Has a really nice buy in the midfield as well. I think we definitely want a player with that buy in the midfield, and it's probably Mitchell. I mean, Guthrie's there. And Duncan's not someone I'm interested in, but probably out of those two. I don't know if his dream team numbers are, in his prime years, he went 125 plus in dream team 2 years. But this year it's like mid-hundreds or something. So, but he had that very limited preseason, and, maybe I think he was better last year post-buy because, he was coming off that leg issue as well, coming off a year off. Is Tom Mitchell in your plans in the near future? Start with JD.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one because I love Titch. I'm one of those that actually rate him all right as a footballer and don't complain about the cheap touches. But I mean, Eno can speak in a second. I think like what's interesting is we've seen stats drop off across the board. So compared to like the 2018 year, for example, he's got a few less disposals. He's averaging like a mark or two less, a tackle or two less. And he hasn't found his way to the scoreboard, which, when he's at his most damaging, he does actually find a way to push forward and do that. And it's a little bit hard to like determine or pinpoint exactly what's wrong. And it may just be the accumulation of a couple of these big injuries, combined with like Hawthorn not being in the best spot at the moment in terms of like on-field performance. So I'm curious, like, does the buy and a rest help him? And does that set him up for the back half of the year? Because I'd be really interested in him at the price he's getting to. But I think on, current form, he's averaging, around 100. I was kind of canning Laird for, I don't think I really want an M8 that's 95 to 100 range. I don't think Titch is much better than that at the moment. So that's my big concern. But as you mentioned, there's not a ton of great, trade-in targets after that first buy. And Titch may kind of just fill that need quite nicely.
Eno?
Look, I don't want to bash him too much. In 17-18 he was insane, and I just haven't seen that Titch since. And obviously there's reasons for that. So he's not gonna be a 100 average player for the rest of the year either. I can't believe that for a second unless he gets injured or something happens. But the weight of numbers is too much. The man still finds a pill like no tomorrow. I think he will be an option that we. I mean, he's 500k, man. For Titch, that doesn't look right. He's not going to be at that price for the rest of the year. So it's definitely something I'm weighing. I mean, as I was saying at the start with the May or Mills or something, like I could get Titch this week and leave Laird at MA. And I mean, obviously everyone could probably get Titch, but he isn't in good form. So probably want to see a bit of a turnaround first, but because what is he over the last month? He's like 90 something even because there's been some really poor ones. So he only has one 110 plus score, and that was round 1. So you just want to see a bit of a turn in form, but he just hasn't been the same player that he was before the leg break, which is completely understandable. You can really knock a guy for that, but he's definitely got to be an option. Like you said at the start, value versus expensive. That's as value as a pick gets for that's average 120 for a couple of years in the past, 500k. That he's still 27 years old. That just doesn't look right. He should outscore that from here on. I would suggest.
I would imagine that a large part is the lack of preseason. He was in doubt for round 1. So I want to see a bit of a turnaround, and I think the last 2 weeks he's been playing a bit better. Just hasn't converted to scoring. So
and the Hawks are very bad too. Let's put that out there.
Say that again.
The Hawks are very, very average as well. Let's put that out there.
They're bottom 4 probably. He's one where I will reassess later. So we can touch on the forward line, and the forward line this year is, I guess it's kind of fun because everyone's got their own pod that they like. Just like there's a few bullshit picks. We'll go through a few of them, and by that I mean they're like really weird. They feel like a role change, but there's so many other things wrong with them. But the first thing we'll discuss is there's 2 forwards at about 480k this week, 490, something like that. Shea Bolton and Dane Zorko. So Zorko's in 20% of teams now. So basically on Discord, I've been saying I would never bring in a 32-year-old that had calf issues last year. We saw what happened with Shannon Hearn over the past few years. He was durable up until then, but every play is different. And Zorko's been very durable throughout his career up until had a few minor issues that he played through last year. And Shea, I think is it Shea or Shy? We'll say Bolton.
I think it's Shea.
Yeah, I think you're right, Shea. Start against the Dogs, kicked 3 goals, been kicking a goal a game in the few weeks before. I actually like Shea to Zorko. I think they'll play him throughout that role. Even with Prestia and Martin coming back, maybe not as much. There might be games where he plays more forward, but I just think he's becoming one of the best players in the league. I would almost say he's a top 3, top 2 player for Richmond. Would that be fair, Eno?
Yeah, he'd be up there in their BNF this year for sure. Top 3.
So, Eno, would you rather Bolton or Zorko, and why? Or neither?
At this stage, neither. If I had to choose this week, I think it would be Zorko. That pains me to say. You just don't know with Shea. I mean, he does just get thrown around. He just does sit forward for periods, weeks in a row for just weight of numbers. Like when Presti's back, Cochin, I guess he's injured again. He'll be out for another 3 weeks. When everyone's playing, he just doesn't get enough time in there. And they even highlighting it on Fox Footy. I watched the post game yesterday. He just starts in the centre. He does the striker role that they've branded it. He's in the centre bounce and he just goes straight sort of to the forward line. Not too long after, like Stringer does it. That's what Dusty does. He does that sort of role. So he doesn't spend a huge amount of time around the ball. But he just kicks goals. He takes marks. He's so good to watch. But can he average 90 plus? I think he can. It's just Hawkeye probably got more faith in doing it because he's done it for so long. Like he's done it for 8 years straight or something. So, but then the age factor comes into it. I think I say Zorko for history, but it's a tough one. At this stage for me, it would be neither. I want to leave the forward line for like another 3 weeks. Just keep leaving it until someone puts.
That's why I got Dev. Anyway, JD.
JD, what do you think?
Yeah, I think like I'm gonna leave both of them alone. I think, George, you touched on it, right? Like, if you nail the forward picks here, especially when they're still cheaper, before they emerge as that primo status, you're going to really benefit in the overall ranks because this is going to be a big differentiator for a lot of teams. Zorko obviously has like the runs on the board in terms of history, but Bolton seems to have like that upside and that allure. But yeah, I'm quite worried about, as like a Prestia, as a Dusty start to return, does he really start to drop off over the back half of the year? And then, Zorko, you touched on like 32 and soft tissue. Like, that scares me. And his scoring hasn't exactly been amazing anyway. I mean, Neil was out this week and it was still a low 90s kind of score. And for 480, 490K, I'm not really interested in either of those, especially when you could be picking up May for 408K, or you could have got someone like a Brayshaw last week for a ridiculously cheap price. So, like, neither of them are singing out to me, but it like gun to my head, pick one, I'd probably take Zorko.
See, every Richmond supporter I've spoken to or posted online or whatever has said like they don't know what's happening with Shea, and they probably think that it could be anywhere between like 85, 95. So it's like I think he can do better than that, but I guess I trust Richmond supporters a bit more.
I've always been like that though with our players, except for Shorty. But like even rookies, like over the years, we just don't score Supercoach points. Like Dusty's been the only one really. I don't know. I'm always pessimistic about it, but all I know is with Shea, we need to sign that man right now.
Yeah.
He seems like the perfect Dusty replacement.
Yeah.
Yeah, his career seems to even be like tracking in a similar direction. It's just wild.
He seems like a quiet like kid as well. He's like the same demeanor.
Yeah. It's actually nuts that you like could replace Dusty with another Dusty.
And we almost lost him like 3 years ago because he wasn't playing ones.
He was dropped last year. How? I don't know.
I don't actually know that. The answer to that.
Anyway, so I guess we got
Next.
So again, it comes down to who the hell do we pick? And at the moment, we're just playing rookies and just putting it off. A bit like my dentist appointment that I keep cancelling. So the next player we'll go over. Now he's like in 70% of teams, but I think in the top 5,000, he's only in like 40% or something. Credit to Supercoach data for those fantastic stats. Supercoachdata.com, that is. So Dustin Martin comes back. I read somewhere, who said it, his break even over the next 2 weeks is probably going to be like 140 then 120 or something like that. He's one where I'd love to get in next week, but I think I just want to wait a week on if his foot is 100%. A bit like Marshall. I just want to know if he's 100% or not. But it should come back refreshed from New Zealand. So say Dusty is 430K in 2 weeks. We don't have him. Are we going for Dustin Martin in 2 weeks for, say, 430K? Eno?
I think we have to. That's like perfect Dusty price, what he gets to at some point every year. Obviously, it was because of an injury, so that's not what you expect with, well, especially him, because he doesn't barely misses games his whole career. So, but that's too good to pass up. And he's going to be top 6. We have trust in him over all these other options. So I think that's just a no-brainer. That's value. That's getting a forward rookie off the field. It's cheap. It just speaks, everything we're looking for. Ready?
Yeah, very easy decision in my mind, and definitely the trade plans to get him in a couple of weeks' time at that reduced price. Like, player that's got history doing it, is durable, will be averaging 100 at 430K in a line where we lack serious options. Like, if you don't have Dusty, like myself, you have to bring him in. Then he has to be your trade plans. The only thing that is worth maybe touching on is I've heard some people, including yourself, George, talk about, should I bring in Dusty next week if I can kind of afford it? It may not be at his absolute bottom, but I kind of need a forward. And I think like the only thing that concerns me a little bit is he hasn't tunned since round 2. So I would actually like to see him hit some of that form before like bringing him in. Otherwise, if he it's just a couple of weeks at his cheapest price, then obviously do it. But I would be really hesitant. I would definitely wouldn't do it this week, and I would even be a little bit cautious about doing it next week unless he scores big.
I think the numbers are still good with Dusty. I think I spoke about it with Eno on the pod last week, where he was just, biting off a bit more than he could chew with his kicks, just because they were like 50 to 80 points up.
Yeah.
But the
definitely.
numbers are still good. So look, even if he goes like low 90s, I think you still take that for his price. We'll get into some interesting forward options. So this name has come up this week, and it's one Aaron Hall. Now, I don't know how to feel about this because he's flaky. He was the sub. He's had a groin issue, and all of a sudden, he's playing halfback, playing for North. North players score well in defense. People are bringing him in, but he's scoring pretty heavy. I think he scored like 100 this week in Supercoach, but it was like 150 in Dream Team. Is this an option? For me, hell no. I see a doctor issue a few weeks ago. We've seen him. He's not a consistent player. He's like, if there was inconsistent in the dictionary, it's got Aaron Hall with dreads on it. What do you boys think of Aaron Hall, Enno?
Just quickly, you can't really mention Aaron Hall without saying that he was leading the Brownlow for like 3 rounds in 2016 or whatever. So, the issue is, all those red flags. There's like 3 of them already you can pick in 5 weeks of him actually getting on the field, or just the thing that makes you want to pick him or want to consider him is obviously the scoring. Like, he could be a top 6 forward if he had no durability or none of those issues with the role he's in. Defender for North, like Zeeble, he just come in and play. He's sort of playing what Almac was doing, really, isn't he? Since Almac is out for 2 months or something. Still, he's basically just slid into that role and just playing with each other. He's taken kickouts. I think he had more than Zeeble for at least this week, maybe 2 weeks in a row. So it's a perfect role for what basically all our forwards are doing now, even though they're playing in defence. But it's just too many red flags for me with the injuries and whatnot. JD?
I'm all over this pick. I spoke about Zach Bailey a lot in my video, and maybe we'll touch on him shortly. But I think Hall's replaced him as my go-to trade target for next week. I really like the fact that we actually know he's going to be able to score well enough to be a top 6 forward if he retains his role. He's had 3 full games in it where he scored he's had 23 touches, 33, scoring 81, 133, 106. So this is all really good signs, and it's almost like the exact same thing that Zeebel's done, right? Injury-prone midfielder that's been, on the inside for his whole career. Turn back the clock once he gets put down in the half-back line to pick up chips like the little seagull that he is, and Aaron Hall is all on board with that too. So I'm definitely looking at him at the low 400 price point next week. I think he's still got a break even of 105 or 6, something around there. So you can kind of wait another week and get that extra sample size. But if he tons again or gets close to it, I'm jumping on.
Can you believe what you're hearing, Enno?
Mate, if it works,
he had a groin injury 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, no, I know, mate. Don't come to you about injuries. I know that's your forte. You know everything.
Yeah.
But if he does stay on the park in that role, it really will be a rankings rocketer, because he's actually sort of capped Zeeble a bit, hasn't he? Zeeble's only
Possibly. I don't know.
Just sort of scoring tons with him. I don't know. Yeah, it's just so he's had issues in the past too, not just this year. Hasn't he had a lot of issues recently? He didn't play at all last year. I don't know.
He played 15 games last year. Chill.
Did he take a mental health break or something? I swear someone was saying. Maybe I'm confusing with someone else, but yeah. I guess in the forward line, it's a risk you can take, because at this point, who are you bringing in that isn't a risk, really?
If you just think about the top 6 forwards at the moment, right? You've got Zeeble, who 2 or 3 months ago, exact same conversation around him, right? This is the most absurd pick in the world. Tex Walker, number 2, he was done as a forward. Toby Green, who we would never pick because of injury risk and concern as well. Impey, who was a mid-price that might make enough money, injury-prone, out of position. And then Zorko, who you've just spent all your time bashing. Oh, and then Harry Mackay, who even knew he could score Supercoach points. And he's a bloody top 6 forward at the moment now that Dunkley's out. So, I mean, out of those 6 names, there's only one of those that really, like Toby Green and maybe Zorko, the only 2 that actually have a better name than Hall, really. So why couldn't he be up there? Like it's absolute muck this year.
I think the scoring you could definitely can. It's just the issues with in the sub in one game, and he's had a groin complaint. And this is in like 5 weeks of him actually suiting up. So I don't know.
Yeah, the durability is huge. Don't get me wrong, but out of these other options, right? Like a lot of them, I don't know if they'll score enough. I don't know what their role is, right? Like we don't know what Bolton's role is. We don't know if Zorko is going to score enough. We don't know if some of the other options we'll talk about will like keep their role or score well enough. But in that role, Hall will definitely score well enough. It's just a matter of whether or not he stays on the park.
Yeah,
and I think I'd prefer to take the bet on him being fit than I would on trying to predict whether these other guys can score well for the rest of the year.
Oh, jeez. You know, I think I get what you're saying. It could be worth the upside. I'm looking at these numbers here. I'm seeing 2 games of 33 touches, which is a lot. 12 marks, had 5 clangers as well, so it could have been like a 130 score.
And he polled coaches' votes in the game on the weekend. He got 3 coaches' votes. So clearly someone was rating what he was doing, even though it wasn't his like best game by foot. So I think that's like a pretty good indicator that they may actually like persist playing him in that role rather than trying to put him at half forward or back on the ball.
He takes those risky kicks like more than Zeeble. Zeeble does those, he does the chip ones, the kick outs, that. But Aaron Hall actually takes the game on a bit and actually exit the back line. Look, he had like 800 meters gained, so he like actually is taking on the game forward as opposed to keeping it around as well. So it's definitely upside in it. It's just super, super risky.
Yeah, I can't do it. I'm not
It's
sure he's
bring
a
it
long. It's the durability. Does he hold that role? Can he be consistent? Because he's not a consistent player. I guess it's easier to be consistent when the ball's in your hand down in the North's defense.
He wasn't
I don't know.
consistent midfielder, but I think you can be easily consistent in that role in their back line. Yeah.
I think I can see it working, but I don't like the odds of it working at all. So not for me.
Yeah, so as I said, right, like he's at 415k this week. I still think he's got like a decently high break even. So it's one of those ones where you get another sample size this week against Collingwood, which you'd expect a good score. And if he plays well, then yeah, I think that's enough for me that I want to bring him as a cheap option.
Very well. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, it could be a weird one where he just skyrockets, but then it's like, is it a long-term solution? I don't know, but I can see it now. Before you said something, I was like, this is the stupidest thing ever, but I can kind of see it now. Now I'm looking at the numbers. Zach Bailey is an interesting one. Now, the obvious thought with Zach Bailey is, he's cheap. He's like $3.90 or something like that.
37.
Okay, even cheaper. And then I think the CBAs are up the past 2 weeks, and he's a good player. However, it's like, Berry's coming back. It sounds like he's back maybe this week. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll probably be back at some point. Neil in 2 months. Does he go back to averaging 75 to 80 in the forward line? But he's really cheap. Is this an option? Well, I know, JD, you're half interested, I think. Are you bringing in Bailey this week?
This was my initial plan just because I'm so desperate to get rookies off the field. But looking at someone like Hall, it's actually like tempered me on Bailey. And like that's part of it. But then also like this, he has got more CBAs from what I've read so far. I haven't seen like final like official numbers, but from those that have looked at the CBAs, it seems like he got some more, but probably not enough. And obviously, like with Robertson, with Beast Mode coming in, and then with like Barry's injury not being that bad, I'm actually like pretty worried that role is going to persist more than the next 2 to 3 rounds. So while he is cheap, I just think I've come to the point where like there's enough better options that Bailey probably isn't going to get there.
Okay. Any thoughts, Enno?
I'm happy with JD, what he said there. It's just, just with those players coming back, and actually, I do agree with him now about the whole pick as probably being slightly ahead just because of the role.
All right, let's talk about the demon of a pick, Isaac Heaney. He's a 350k with a break even of 140. If he goes 80 this week, probably going to be about 330k and probably falls a bit further. Has scored 19 this week. Maybe he's struggling with his hand a little bit. Okay, Isaac Heaney gets to 300k. Do you consider this? 300k for a dude that should be able to average, is capable of averaging 90. Enno, what do you think of Isaac?
Man, he's been one of my favorite players ever since he sort of started.
Doesn't mean you
ever
pick
since
him.
he took off. No, it doesn't mean you pick him. Doesn't mean you pick him. But I've owned him for a couple of years. I know your famous fiasco a couple of years ago. I held him for that whole year, and he ended up being my sort of M forward sort of loop. He's just in really bad form since he's come back. 40, 50, 19 on the weekend. Look, that's terrible. That's very terrible. And it may be paired with the Sydney sort of fall off a bit. I know they won on the weekend, but they got absolutely dominated. That was like the biggest differential in contested ball, uncontested ball, marks, inside, and for a team that's lost the game of like all time apparently. So Sydney have fallen off quite a bit, and that's obviously with him being up forward does play a part because he doesn't require more ball to get to him to do what he can do. So he started off the year super well. 2 tons and an 82, was averaging 100 after 3 weeks. So definitely capable of doing it, but I think he's just in really, really poor form. You get him in at sub 300k. It'd be super tempting if you saw a glimpse of like getting his form around, because like what you said, he's shown in the past he's been like a 90 plus average player for 3 or 4 years before now. So it's going to look super tempting, especially with the Dow forward line. It's tough. It's tough. JD, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean at 300k, right? If he gets that, I'm going to be so keen. It's kind of like potentially a F6 in a pinch, but even just for the cash gen, because I think he will make it back. So after this week, they play the Melbourne this week, and then after that they've got Collingwood, Freo, Carlton, St Kilda, Hawthorn the next 5. Like those are 5 games that Sydney could win, even though they have slowed their form a little bit. And the other thing that's promising is that Buddy's back in, I think, 1 to 2 weeks from here, coming off that knee injury. And that does seem to help Heaney a little bit. So for me, I am, really interested if he gets down to that cheap price. I don't think we've ever seen him score this poorly in a few games back to back. But once the hand brace thing comes off, Buddy comes back and the fixture opens up a little bit, I think he's going to be really hard to pass up at 300k.
I look forward to you bringing him in and watching your video.
We're between Hall and Heaney. What could go wrong?
Exactly.
The next video when you trade him out.
Okay, last player we'll touch on. There's not much analysis here, but Riccardi got 40 touches, moved to defense. I assume he's key defender, but I'm not sure. Maybe halfback just because of his size. 40 touches in the knee full. Might come in pretty soon, play off halfback for the Giants. I'm aware that Liam Stocker got 38 touches at halfback in the knee full as well, or the VFL, whatever it is, EFL, whatever it's called. Something to just monitor, but nothing to... Can't bring him in straight away. I just want to see it at AFL level. He's 300k, so it could be interesting. We know he's got the talent and attributes, so something to look at. And his mature age, I think he's 21 or 22. Now we'll look to the rookies now. So there's 2 rookies I think we're looking at this week, probably 3 actually. There's Murray from the Crows, Murphy and Frederick. I think Frederick, the safest one is Murphy in terms of job security, but the better ceiling is Frederick. And Frederick probably plays the Crows this week. Halfbacks do whatever they want against the Crows. Fully expect him to go up 80k. Are you guys looking at bringing in Frederick? Is he a must-have, or looking at anyone else this week? JD?
I mean, Frederick's a must-have for mine. He's averaging 81 across those 2 games. There's not too many rookies scoring like that at the moment. And given Chapman has to go for those that own him, he's the perfect replacement. Now, originally I was going to do Frederick and I was going to upgrade to May, but with May actually beating his break even and Chapman being a complete spud, I missed out on that by about 10, 20k. So I'm now actually considering Murphy as a second downgrade as well, and fitting two rookie defenders in is a little bit scary, but I guess Murphy's like he's a mature body, right? And it seems like Collingwood like him. They're going to give him some game time. So yeah, I'm pretty interested in actually getting both of those this week.
But you go. Sorry, go on, Anno.
Oh, Frederick over Murphy though.
Yeah. I think that's the same for me. To be fair, I've only seen one game of each of. I've seen two of Murphy. He did fade last week in the Anzac clash, but I just like the look of Frederick more. I've only seen the one live game last week, and you think his JS has gone up, job security, with Burton getting injured, which was maybe his one worry, before heading into this week or into the future. So I think for me, it's got to be Freddie, and his scoring's been very, very good.
Yeah, I thought he brought a lot to that side, Frederick. So I think he holds, but he's going to make a lot of money very quick, I assume. Expecting a good score against the Crows. But yeah, if it's Frederick, and then I think Murphy, and then Murray from the Crows, I really don't know about his job security because they swung him forward, and the Crows have a lot of, apart from Thilthorpe and Tex, the next two or three in line are just not up to it. So not really sure how they use him or if he plays. So I like him. I hope they keep playing him, but I just don't know what his position is. I don't know if he's going to be sub some weeks because he has been sub before. So I'll skip Murray. But yeah, I just think the Frederick and Murphy are better bets. Any rookies we can consider next week? I think we've got here always RCD, Harry Edwards from the Eagles, Poulter from Collingwood, Burns, from the Saints, and Madden, is he from Brisbane, I think?
He is.
So the name that sticks out here is Riley Collier-Dawkins. So I'm planning for him next week. Eno, do you think he holds his spot in the next few weeks?
He has to, man. He was awesome. I mean, it still blows my mind how he hasn't played really until this point. First game, he's looked better. This isn't a knock on Ross or anything, but he looked way more dynamic than Ross sort of ever has. Ross is good sort of inside and win that contested ball, but yeah, RCD just looked clean. He's a taller man, taller kid, so he can get up, in the air for contests. 21 years old, so there's no it is his first game, but there's no issue about he's had a massive body of work in the VFL, so I think he holds for sure. I mean, he has to. He played super well, so he's definitely the big one here for next week. And I think.
But what about when Cochin and Prestia are back?
I think he's ahead of Ross, so I think Ross has to go before him. So,
is he ahead of anyone else in the midfield?
Let's see when they come back. Mansell probably does go at some point too, because now Voston's back, and then when Grimes, obviously, I think he's missing this week. When he's back, Mansell probably that he does go. So there's another. It's hard, man. I actually have always been pessimistic about Tigers players and rookies. I see, man. He's good. He's way too good. He has to play.
Well, I think at least he'll get a month, given the injuries to other players.
Then there's a question: is that really long enough for a rookie in Supercoach? It's not. So
we need him for the buys.
Yeah, got to play him.
Or JD, any of these names take?
JD knows. Yeah, JD knows the Saints and the Lions one. So stick on them, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of know all of them just from picking up the games. I think RCD is obviously the standout one. And if he scores well and it looks like he's going to keep his spot, then that's the one we're all going to be jumping on next week. But I think the interesting thing is that these people all had various success this week, and I guess it's more as your planning goes to next week. If you're just getting by on cash this week to get a May in or whatever, then next week does look like it could potentially be a nice double downgrade week for those that are interested. I think Madden's probably the one that actually interests me the least. So he's an Irish convert. He looked a little bit like Connor McKenna out there, but still very raw from what I saw. Burns for St Kilda played pretty well. He actually he only scored a 52 in Supercoach, but he had something like a 75 in Dream Team. So he got like 18 touches, 9 marks, so a lot of the ball. Someone that could potentially score well, but maybe that's a little bit difficult with the Saints up and down games. Poulter actually liked the look of him for Collingwood as well. He seemed to play really well for a first gamer, better than maybe some of the other debutants that the Pies have had. So yeah, I guess RCD is the standout, but there could be a second downgrade option next week for those that need it.
I remember
I
Paul
forgot about Lambert as well. Sorry, George. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough with RCDs. Security.
Uh,
Kind of annoying. It says Lambert, Prestia, and Koch. Look, they're all like 3 weeks, 3 to 4. Yeah, 2, maybe 3. I think is probably what they're all at still. So it's yeah.
okay, we'll assess next week if there's any other options that look better than RCD. I know Poulter's playing wing at the moment, and his numbers in the SNFL 18s were pretty good. I think it was like a 130 average or something from memory. I think Powers was like 160 or 150 or something. But yeah, Porter's not playing inside though. So something we'll look at next week. Wouldn't go early on anybody here though. Hopefully RCD can put his spot beyond doubt somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, captains this week. This is a hard week. I mean, I have Charlie Combin, so it's can't really, and it looks like Brockman's coming back. So I don't think I have a loophole this week because all my other dead players play early. So I can't actually go Grundy into Gorn. I have to pick out of Steele, Merritt, and that's it. So I have to go Steele or Merritt into Grundy or Gorn. Are we picking Gorn captain this week? Is he part of you guys' plans?
It's so tough because Hickey's been doing really well at muting other scores, and obviously Gorn's coming off a pretty poor effort. But usually whenever Gorn scores poorly, he bounces back. But yeah, I don't know. It just seems really tough to put the C on him this week. And what are your thoughts, mate?
He's on notice, mate. I initially thought he could definitely bounce back. He knew, like you said, he usually does. But after what he did to me last week, Grundy's in good form, but he does have Goldie this week as well. Huff, what mid do you trust?
They use Luke
play
Jackson.
late. Walsh plays late.
So just to interrupt, they use Luke Jackson a lot. I think Gorn CBAs were like 58%. So just want to wait and see. I don't want to captain him this week. I can't vice captain him, but I would vice captain if I could.
If anyone that's got Guthrie this week playing Tigers on Friday night, that's a meal ticket right there. Very jealous. Outside of that, it looks hard because I think this is the first week where both Grundy and Gorn have some question marks because Goldie's pretty good ruck to go, to kind of stop scoring. So you could see Grundy regress. Gorn's got Hickey, which isn't a great matchup coming off a bad game. And then none of the other matchups are that great. So Walsh, for example, against the Dogs midfield, that's not so crash hot. The Dogs mids could get tagged by Kurnow, so trusting them as your C option seems quite tough. Maybe you've got Oliver, but he hasn't been in the best form either. So Zeebel's the other sneaky one. Maybe you're interested in him against Collingwood, giving it Collingwood's that's a game, right, where you could have a close score given Collingwood's form hasn't been the best. And if Zeebel's guaranteed to have 10 touches a quarter, it seems, then he could get mega scaled in that game up to a 130, 40, 50 type thing. Maybe that's a serious option this week, which sounds so weird to say. But yeah, I think this is probably the hardest week we've had in terms of vice captain and captain option.
Yeah,
it really is.
I think I have to go Steele or Merritt vice captain. I don't really have anyone else unless I go for Short or Bose. I'm not sure I want to do that.
I think he goes Steele.
And then Saints could lose pretty bad to Gold Coast. The Gold Coast is pretty good right now. Oh geez, I really have no idea. I guess it depends if you have a loop or not. I'm just expecting Brockman to come back, so he would have been my loop.
Yeah, I just realised I have McNeil. I still have McNeil, so I think JD, you do as well.
Yeah,
I think McNeil comes back in though.
Yeah, jeez, okay.
I might even go Captain Brayshaw against the Lions. The Lions seem to leak. I don't tag either.
So I've got Campbell as well, so he might not come back, and McRae could get dropped. And Brockman and McNeil are no certainties. Look, when you've got as many dud rookies as I do, the world's your oyster. Highmore's no guarantee, and it doesn't seem to matter how well he plays and how bad Saints play, he still doesn't come in.
No, but he plays like the second game of the round. That's all. It's tough.
I'm going. If I had a loop, I'd go Grundy into yuck. Everything yuck. I don't know. McRae. Even though he's probably going to get tagged.
Straight up C Zeeble. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah. Don't VC.
Oh, man. I don't know.
VC Shorty. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to go Steele into McRae. So, do you guys, JD, do you know what you're doing?
No, I think for me it really does come down to like, do we get a loophole with teams on the Friday? Because that's going to change things. Because like with the VC, there's a real world where like we just don't get a loophole this week, and you just have to straight see someone, and then the question becomes like not who's going to score the most, but who's probably going to hurt you the least. With their you probably just want to say floor, and so then maybe someone like a McRae and Oliver actually is a good option, even though neither of them are that exciting.
If my vice captain goes 110, I'm taking it this week. But yeah, I think that's everything for this episode. So JD, welcome anytime you want. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a lot of fun, as always. Love talking Supercoach with both of you.
Where can we find your work as well?
Oh, at what's my YouTube channel? I think it's just my name, so Jackson Davey. I think I'm almost at 1,000 subs, which is a big milestone. So, if you don't, sub to me yet, please do so. Cost you nothing, as those dirty submongers like to say. So yeah, please jump on.
And Anna, as always, pleasure.
Yes, mate. It always is. Let's see you get even higher this week, mate. I'm rooting for you.
Yeah, top 10. Let's go, George.
I think we have 5 people in the top 55 in the Discord.
Yeah.
So
unreal.
Yeah. Hopefully one of us can win. We've agreed to split the prize money.
Liam's not paying up.
No. Yeah, we'll see. He's got Joe. Joe's killing it. Like none of us won Joe except for
that
him.
was a ticket. That was a big ticket.
Yeah. We need to find a ticket pick. I thought Dev was the ticket, but I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, JD's on the whole express, so hopefully that's his ticket. Anyway, Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.